SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Whether you're looking to start a career with no student loans or change careers to land one of the happiest jobs in the world, yep, that's construction, Build Mississippi can help. Visit buildmississippi.com to learn why a career in the trades deserves another look. Buildmississippi.com. Your future is waiting.
What's up, everybody? Welcome in on this Sunday night to this edition of the podcast. My name is Michael Borky. Always appreciate you being here. Baseball sweeps on the weekend. It was Evansville, but they did some nice things, and you always want to do some nice things before a trip to Hattiesburg and then Austin to follow. Basketball season mercifully came to an end. I know the SEC tournament is this week, but holy crap. That was a disaster. And that disaster is over. And so at least there is closure. But tonight, we are going to talk about recruiting first. And of course, read your comments, whatever shows up in the comment section, we'll talk about. But it's early. We'll get to all the caveats. But Ole Miss is doing the thing again on the defensive line that got them into the position that they were going into this past season, and that they're going to be again going into this season, where there was not desperation in the transfer portal the way that other teams have because of quality in-state recruiting on the defensive line. They got a commitment. We'll talk about that. That's going to be the theme of tonight, but whatever shows up in the comments, we will talk about and more with you. My name is Michael Borky. Again, please follow me on social media if you have not already at Michael Borky, Borkey. And don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Just search Rebel Report. Please subscribe there. Just search Rebel Report and subscribe. And leave a rating and a review. Also right here on YouTube, like, comment, all that good stuff. I would really appreciate that. Hit the notification bell as well. And this edition of the show is presented by Logan Smith Shelter Insurance for auto, home, life, or business. Auto, home, life, or business. Any of those anywhere in Mississippi. You don't have to be in Brookhaven where he's located. You can be anywhere, and he will take care of you with his award-winning services. Give him a call. Even if you have any of those insurances, if you don't, quote unquote, need it, it's worth a phone call. You really are going to love what you have to hear from him. 601-823-3500. 601-823-3500. Give him a call. Don't forget when you call him to tell him that it was me that sent you there. Check him out. Logan Smith Shelter Insurance. So Ole Miss gets a commitment. Now, let's start with the caveats, because there's a lot of caveats, right? It's March. There's a long way to go between now and National Signing Day. That is obvious. It's March, okay? So that's number one. Number two, this is the transfer portal era. Guys that you get in your recruiting class often leave. And also, if you don't get every player you want in recruiting, you can also go to the transfer portal and try to get players there as well. But as we're about to talk about, just because it's early, but just because this is the transfer portal era doesn't mean that you totally and completely abandon high school recruiting, especially when you consider the quality of player that Mississippi is producing at the most difficult spot to find in the transfer portal for most teams anyway. Now, I like what Ole Miss added in the transfer portal on the defensive line, especially at edge. I really like what they added at edge via portal, but the quality of player that Ole Miss has been able to retain on the defensive line is important because of the theme that is related to them. Let's first get to the player. Ben Jarvis. Ole Miss has cornered the market on guys named Ben Jarvis, apparently. But Ben Jarvis Shoemaker from Choctaw County. I mean, this dude's from Ackerman. He's from Mississippi State's backyard and has committed to Ole Miss. Again, it's early. It's March. All the caveats are, I get it, right? They're there. But he becomes in the four-man class, because, again, it's March. There's only 4 commits for Ole Miss right now. But 3 of them are 4-stars, 2 of them on the defensive line. 1 from Mississippi State's backyard, and then 1 from Memphis, which is an area that in the past Ole Miss has really emphasized and been able to do good work there in Memphis and get players. But both of them on the defensive line. Both of them, I assume, tackles based on their size. But that's good for a lot of reasons. One, even in the portal era, you always want to get good players, but especially on the defensive line. If you look at the state of Mississippi and what Ole Miss has been able to do in high school recruiting at that, specifically that position group, cannot be overstated how important it is. Because as we talked about going into this last season, the lack of desperation that they had because they have been able to clean up on in-state high school recruiting is really, really impressive. And then you look at the current crop of recruits in the state of Mississippi, 3 of the top 4 players in the state, at least looking at 24/7, are on the defensive line. 3 of the top 4 are defensive linemen. And then number 7 is an edge as well. So, and number 13 is a defensive lineman. He's currently committed to Oklahoma, but still, I mean, there is another crop of really quality defensive linemen from the state of Mississippi. You guys know me, if you've listened to me before, I'm very much in the camp of do not sign players just because they're from here. Like if they can't play at the SEC level, you don't just bring in kids because they're from a certain place. But when you have SEC caliber defensive linemen in your backyard, if you want to win at the highest level, you got to go get them, right? And they've done that. Look at Ole Miss's depth chart going into this season and where these guys are from. You have Franklin, Eccles, Perkins, all from Mississippi that came to Ole Miss and have not left Ole Miss. Jam Brown, Cam Beavers, Andrew Maddox, even Jaheim Otis is from Mississippi, kind of worked his way back into the state. But that is what you have on the defensive line. And I think that not just that position, in recruiting in general, in this era, maybe it's anecdotal. Maybe I'm just looking at something that I want to see that is not actually there. But I do think in the era of player movement, I would assume, based on my observations, and again, maybe it's anecdotal, that it's easier to retain players from here. Like Caleb Cunningham, for example. I think there's a proximity loyalty factor to why he has stuck around. And I think he's going to get rewarded for that. But if he was just some dude from Florida, do you think that he would still be at Ole Miss right now? If he was a 5-star from Florida or Texas or whatever, and to this point has 1 catch, do you think he'd stick around? I don't. I mean, just you see it all over the place that there's more of an opportunity for loyalty when it's somebody that has the emotional tie to the state in which you are in. So again, you don't just offer kids from Mississippi for the hell of it, but I don't think the idea that recruiting high school players is just a waste of time really makes sense, because that is a talking point from some people. To me, that doesn't make any sense. When you look at, again, what Ole Miss has on the defensive front, those are guys that some of them could have gotten more playing time or could get more playing time somewhere else this year. But the Ole Miss has done a really good job on the defensive front. Here they are doing it again. Blue chip, in-state guys are more likely, I think, to stick around, and the proof is in front of you. So, look, it's March, all the things, but when you're going to have to reload on the defensive line, and when you look at the portal and how hard it is to get quality defensive linemen, locking down these blue chip in-state guys has paid off for Ole Miss in the past, and it's going to pay off again. So, good on Pete Golding and Randall Joyner. It's obviously an attractive program to play for at the moment. Randall Joyner is a superstar, obviously, but this recruiting class is starting incredibly strong, and you have already seen how good Ole Miss has been since Pete Golding has gotten to Oxford, recruiting the front 7 defensive linemen from this state that are blue chip caliber players, and here they are doing it again. And I don't think they're done either. I really don't think that Shoemaker is going to be the only blue chipper from Mississippi in this class to end up at Ole Miss. So, look, I know some people think that high school recruiting is useless. I think this roster will tell you otherwise. So that's just a quick thought on recruiting. It's a good start. It's a really good start. And we'll get to your comments after I tell you the podcast is brought to you in part By Priority One Bank, they make you their priority every single day with their online banking platform. It's a one-stop shop. You can do whatever it is that you need to do with your money just with an internet connection. You don't need multiple apps like I did at my previous bank. Also, local loan servicing and decision-making, so you get to know the person. You sit down with them face-to-face because it's in the name at Priority One Bank. Also, Advantage Business Systems for all of your office technology needs. absms.com is the website. Was this the worst basketball season in the past 20 years? It was horrendous. And the thing is, what is most concerning to me, and maybe this is crazy, but I don't think my position on this team for the last couple of months has been crazy. They are close, right? They played a lot of close games and lost a lot of close games. But little things that have cost them down the stretch are not just, that player's not good enough. That's what's concerning to me, is when you look at how they've lost a lot of these games. Simply put, did they lose yesterday because that player's just not good enough? Did they lose the LSU game down the stretch the way they did, the Vanderbilt game down the stretch the way they did, simply because they just don't have good enough players? Or are they not prepared for those kind of spots as well as they need to be? That's what I'm concerned about. That's what I'm interested in, is from a coaching perspective, what the hell happened? Because a season like this does not just come down to a missed evaluation. When you lose the way that they did, as consistently as they did, it's not just missed evaluation. They've got a lot more to figure out than just get better players. There's more to it than that. Because this roster, even though they missed on a lot, was not as bad as the record says that it is. But here they are. And, Chris Beard has said the right things a couple of times. But I've always kind of been cynical. And, I had a few radio listeners send me emails after the Auburn game in particular, asking why I couldn't be positive. And, maybe that's a me problem. Maybe I should have been more positive after they broke a 10-game losing streak. But I am far less patient, frankly, in this era, for sure, when you are taking and taking and taking more and more money from fans. And by the millions, and you just keep taking, and now you got to take more, and you got to get more, and give me more in salary, give my staff more, give my players more, give me more. I am less, quote unquote, forgiving in that. Like his quotes after the game yesterday, they're good quotes, like vows to get it turned around, all that stuff. And I think that he can. I'm not saying that he can. I think that he can. He's too good of a coach to just completely flame out like this, right? But my response when I saw that was, well, he sure as hell better. There's too much money at stake for, you know what I mean? It doesn't move me. Quotes don't move me anymore. Results move me. Back when you weren't taking millions of dollars from the fans to build a roster that is as bad as this one, it's a little bit different. Now, when this kind of money's involved, I'm not moved by what is said. I'm moved by what is done a lot more. So this is a big offseason. They got to get better players. They got to evaluate better. But when games come down to the wire like they did, they've got to be prepared for that better. They've got to be coached better in that spot. We'll see if they do. Luckily, you have a coach that I think can figure that out and get that done. But this season was not just a couple of missed evaluations. There's more problems than that. And it'll come to an end here soon. Fans should be satisfied with what they saw from baseball this weekend. Just look at what has gone on with Florida, LSU, Arkansas, Vandy, Tennessee, etc. All horrible losses. Yeah, Ole Miss has avoided now that non-conference is essentially over. The Southern Miss game at Southern Miss is not your typical non-conference game. What did they do this weekend, though? Because I know after they beat Mississippi State, they had a horrible loss the next night to Nichols. They just should not have lost that series at all. Okay, they swept easily as well. So they got back on track. So a legitimately good Southern Miss team. I mean, they're in the top 10 for a reason. It'll be pretty crazy, nuts on Tuesday night. So that's not your typical non-conference game. That's not losing to, Northeastern or whatever. It's a top 10 team. So now that the non-conference slate is over and conference play is here, Ole Miss avoided the bad loss. They shouldn't have lost to Baylor. They they played poorly against Coastal, but by and large, they took care of business. I still have some questions, of course, but you see that there is potential there for this team to make some noise. And the SEC looks bad. At least a lot of the SEC looks bad. The schedule, not near as daunting as it looked like 3 weeks ago. So, yeah. Just cruise weekend. Weather was weird, kind of disrupted things for them and, took care of business. Others this weekend did not, and that does matter. LSU already has 4 quad 4 losses on their resume. It's brutal. Pretty excited about the defensive ends. I am as well. I mean, between Cam Franklin and, I kind of think that Sonny P is going to play a little bit more true linebacker this season, but maybe I'm wrong. But with Purchase and Renaud and Maldonado, and there's I think that position could be one of strength. I don't know if you're going to have a 15 sack guy or anything like that, but I think the edge is going to be really solid, especially against the run. I think is where they're going to be improved, really improved against the run. I think women's basketball probably came up a win against Texas short of hosting tournament games. That last week they had losing to Florida and Texas A&M killed it. Yeah. Does Chris Beard stay? Where's he going to go? Who would offer a coach after the season that they just had? Maybe somebody, but I don't know where that would be right now. Ole Miss continues to own the defensive line, recruiting in the state. Choctaw County is right in Mississippi State's backyard, too. Yeah, that tells you a lot. That a defensive lineman, because it wasn't too long ago where Mississippi State was the one that was getting the in-state defensive lineman. That is completely flipped. Pete Golding and company should continue to hold clear advantage for in-state recruiting, especially with the likelihood of Mississippi State making a coaching change in December. Yeah, and like I said before, 4 of the top 5 are defensive linemen in the state, again, according to 24/7. But 3 of the top 4, are defensive linemen in the state this year. Go get one more. Or maybe get both if you can. The law firm Ben Jarvis Green Ellis. Yeah. Hoping the Supreme Court shuts the NCAA down. The NCAA doesn't want anything to go to the... Are you talking about the Mississippi Supreme Court? You ain't got to worry about that. Also, the Supreme Court hates the NCAA model. The NCAA's already had to argue in front of them, and it went terribly. So, Ole Miss's 2 best players on defense, both likely All-Americans with Perkins and Eccles, are from right here in Mississippi. Absolutely. And, the volume of offers that those 2 guys have gotten last year, more so this year with Perkins, but buddy, Auburn after 2 seasons ago, I guess now, boy, they tried to get Centarian Perkins badly. Eccles was given a Godfather offer from LSU. And I think there's something to, you are more likely to hold on to in-state players in this era than out-of-state players. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm crazy, but I do think there might be something to that. I think the recruiting and portal classes, mainly on the defensive side, that we saw after Kiffin left, are really encouraging going forward. They are, and the money, I think, was more balanced, which helps. there was not as much money allocated for the defense going into the 2024 season as there was, or excuse me, going into the 2025 season as there was going into this season. Yeah. I mean, that's just they did not have as much money to work with defensively as they did offensively in the portal going into last season. Loyalty in this era is a breath of fresh air. Don't blame the kids for jumping around to other teams, but I like when they stick it out at one place. And especially now, those dudes become legends forever, right? I mean, think about when Centurion Perkins is done playing football. What Ole Miss people are going to think about him. Because, there are guys that, the fan base loves and will always love forever. I mean, every time they do the players coming back thing, like, fans love them and the players love where they went. And, like, it's a really good, positive relationship, of course. I think that there will be an even greater, quote unquote, love with guys from this era because of how easy it is to leave now. And choosing not to, I think, matters more now because back then they couldn't leave. The only decision they made was the one in high school. Now they're making a decision every year. And Perkins made a decision every year to stay. Eccles made a decision every year to stay. Cunningham, if he ends up working out, made a decision every year to stay. Even Kewan Lacey, who was a transfer himself, but, loyalty is a two-way street, chose to stay. Those kind of decisions are going to be remembered. Deuce Alexander chose to stay. Bryson Sanders chose to stay. He had bigger offers than the one that he signed with Ole Miss with. He chose to stay. I think that will end up mattering more. Plans for a stream on Tuesday with the baseball game starting at 6:30. Just going to stream. Yeah, I'll wait till the game ends. We'll just do post-game reaction whenever the game ends. I'd like to gauge whatever thoughts you may have on some of the other SEC basketball programs, namely Kentucky, Auburn, LSU, and Mississippi State. So if LSU is going to make a change, they need to commit to basketball. My question is, they say they're willing to, but are you actually willing to? Especially when you read about what they did with rev share in football and what they're spending outside of rev share on football and what they're spending on baseball and what they're spending on women's basketball. Are they going to fully fund men's basketball too? Is whatever new coach going to get $12, $13 million to fund a roster for next year? I will believe that when I see that, personally. Auburn, that was just a nepotism hire. He never should have gotten the job. His only experience has ever been working for his dad. This was the inevitable outcome. We called it at the time. Mississippi State's an interesting one because his best player was basically because, no, not basically. He has his best player because Kermit Davis got fired. And defensively, they've been awful. They don't have that identity that you would expect from a team like his. It's an interesting crossroads that program is at right now because you can't fire him. He went to 3 straight tournaments. But they've gone 4 years without a tournament win. And they were just as bad on the court as Ole Miss was. I mean, they were an atrocity. And they, to Mississippi State's credit, basketball had they had good money for basketball. Hubbard's getting paid a ton of money. They got money for basketball. That roster wasn't cheap. And it was a disaster. And they're getting blown out, non-competitive every night. He's going to get next season, but part of me is wondering if there would be a mutually beneficial breakup upcoming for them. Much love to you, man. Thank you. Are we kind of in the boat that Beard gets one season to right the ship, but if not, he's toast? Yes, absolutely gets next year no matter what. But yeah, can't do this again. Nobody should have patience for this. And I don't want to be a thought police guy, but some of the some of the fan reaction defending this has been odd to me. This is indefensible. Well, believe in trust in coach. No, not in this era. No, you can support and like buy your tickets and yeah, like I think he can turn it around. But this undying, unwavering love, and if you question it, you're the problem, to me is a problem. So Andy Staples talking about this today. He said, watch out for Clemson and Florida State to make some more noise about trying to leave the ACC very soon. He name dropped North Carolina as well. Oh, yeah, they've been trying to get out. They've been trying to get out for a while. Florida should run through. And, oh, by the way, after what happened on Friday in Washington, and now that they're going to try to consolidate media rights, we are getting closer and closer to a breakaway. On no planet should the SEC and the Big Ten have their media rights pooled with the MAC and the Mountain West and the Sun Belt and the AAC. On no planet. That would be like pulling the NFL's media rights in with the UFL. No. I mean, that's a non-starter, or it should be anyway. Florida should run through the SEC tournament. Wouldn't be surprised if they met Duke in the national championship. Oh, that sounds gross. Why'd you do that to me? Gross. Terrible. This baseball week will be the telltale sign of how good Ole Miss is this year. Austin and Hattiesburg will be real test. 4-0 will be peak performance. God, 4-0, you're talking about this team's a national title contender. 3-1 would be awesome. I'd take 2-2. 2-2 would be great. Great. No, not great. If they come back from Austin and they are 2-2 on the week, that is a satisfactory week to me. I think that would be okay. That's a really difficult 4-game stretch. 2 top 10 teams on the road. If you get 2 of those games, you come back feeling really good about your team, I think. 3-1, you're like, oh, hell yeah, this team's going to host and maybe more. 1-3, not good. Especially if that one is Hattiesburg and you get swept in Austin. The College Sports Summit in Washington was a big nothing burger. A lot of embarrassing stuff said. Nothing will come of it. I agree completely. What do you think the record will be? I got 11-1 with a loss to Texas. I'm at the present 9-3 is where I am at the present. I like if you made me go. So that's where I am. And if you said, okay, they're going to be 1 game off of your prediction, what would it be? I would say 10 instead of 8, if that makes sense. Early spitballing without much research, probably landing at 10-2 with a loss at Texas, and then a loss between Oklahoma and Georgia. Yeah, I mean, look, they've got to go to Gainesville, and that Summerall, that'll be tough in week 4, and that's right after LSU. So that's a tough spot on the schedule. Obviously, they got to go back to Norman. They got to play Georgia. They got to go to Texas. It's a difficult schedule. It is. Guys like Dart, Trinidad, Matt Corral, Keewan Lacey, Centurion Perkins, Trey Harris will forever be cheered when they come back for sure. See, I tend to agree here. They keep talking about how they're going to bring in Will Wade. Well, Will Wade's going to demand money, and do you have money? Look at what they're spending on everything else. Do you have more? Maybe, but Austin with the super chat. Really appreciate you, man. Thank you. Totally unnecessary, but thank you. No, you're not a big number retirement guy, but if I told you Ole Miss football retired another number in the next few years, who do you pick? Deuce McAllister. But yeah, you're right. I'm not a number retirement guy. I think you have a ring of honor. You have a ring of honor because you can put more names in it that deserve recognition like that. You know what I mean? Instead of jersey retirement, which is just such a small threshold, there's only so many guys that actually deserve a jersey retirement. But there's a lot of guys that deserve to have their name on the stadium somewhere. Deuce deserves his name on the stadium. I think so. A.J. Brown deserves his name on the stadium, right? But A.J. Brown, to me, right now, is not a retirement guy. Maybe you guys disagree with that. I don't think he is. But he's a name on the stadium guy. Laramie Tunsil is not a jersey retirement guy, but he's a name on the stadium guy. They need a ring of honor. That's the direction they need to go. somebody, I know people at Ole Miss listen to this. They definitely do the radio show. Maybe I didn't bring this up on the radio show. Guys, Ring of Honor, what are you doing? The press box is boring. All you have is the home of the Ole Miss Rebels on it. Put a bunch of freaking names up there that deserve to be memorialized in the stadium forever. Look at the Superdome. Superdome's filled with them. You need to be too. Yeah, Kentucky spent $22 million to finish 9th in the league in basketball. It's unbelievable. Patrick Willis, see? He's a jersey retirement guy. What does the spring football game look like this year? If there even is one. I like the hot dog eating contest, by the way. I would not be surprised if they don't have a game, but they do have some kind of open practice scrimmage thing where they incorporate fans. As I understand it, Golding is pretty similar to Lane in the doesn't want to show much, doesn't want to do that, but I do think he's a little bit more fan conscious than Lane was, a lot more fan conscious than Lane was. I think some people are just so easy on basketball because football was great. The drama with it dragged on forever, and baseball is here. I tend to agree with that. It was very easy to check out of basketball because football dragged on, like you said, forever, and then baseball's here, and the baseball team is always interesting, you know? Exactly. This is the crux of it, and the SEC should not, and the Big Ten should not agree. Saying Ole Miss is worthy of the same TV money that Toledo gets is ridiculous. That pulling those rights is unbelievable. Even if you unevenly distribute them, how do you calculate that? That's such a bad idea, and that's why a breakaway is coming. Oh, Jody, I'm so sorry to hear this. We'll be praying for you when we hang up here. Been out of the loop after the death of my dad. Is there anything to the tampering stuff with Golding? I'm really sorry to hear that, Jody, and I appreciate you being here. And we'll be thinking about you and praying for you for sure. So I'm sorry to hear that. Is there anything to it? I mean, you want the truth? There's no doubt that there was tampering. Of course there was. Because that's what everybody does. That's how everybody gets players. Is there anything to it from a gonna get punished perspective? I will believe that when I see that and not a second before, if that makes sense. So did it happen? Well, yeah, because everybody tampers. My God. One day, the Kiffin exit is going to get a good, long form story from somebody that needs to write it and talk about what current Ole Miss players had to deal with from assistant coaches that were supposed to be coaching them and the kind of stuff that they had to deal with from Lane and the assistants that left and after they left, and the final 24 hours of the portal window needs to be written about. And I can't believe it hasn't been to this point. So I don't think anything significant is going to come from it. I will be shocked if it does. Deuce is a great choice. Favorite Reb from when I was a kid. And then I know that this isn't really why you do this, but I do think him becoming a pro and being a really good pro also helps that too. Question about programs like South Carolina, Auburn, Arkansas in football. Why do you think their athletic programs are such a disaster right now overall? Mostly just terrible leadership. Yep. It's that simple. Bad leadership. Auburn's got really bad leadership right now. John Cohen should have never hired Hugh Freeze. That was never going to work. And before you... I have to do this on the radio show. Before you say anything, go back and check the tape from when Auburn hired Hugh Freeze and listen to what I said about it. It was always going to end like this. Same thing in basketball. John Cohen, I mean, I understand giving Stephen Pearl an interim year, but to make a Nepo hire and give him a 6-year contract is just nonsense. It makes no sense at all. South Carolina promoted a baseball coach that had no business being an athletic director. Arkansas made bad hires. I mean, Chad Morris was a disaster. Pittman shouldn't have gotten the job. I like him, but who else would have hired Sam Pittman as their head coach? Nobody. It's leadership and bad hires. Any word yet on stadium renovations? So they received the bids, and they will be interviewing and like deciding which bid to go with and announcing that pretty soon. So you will get a plan before the end of baseball season, I believe. Jevin Sneed, Dexter McCluster, Deuce McAllister, Romero Miller, guys like that could be in the Ring of Honor. Exactly. Like, I don't think Sneed, may he rest in peace, is a jersey retirement guy. But he's a Ring of Honor guy, right? Two of the best quarterbacks in recent history wore the same number. That's a Ring of Honor thing for sure, yeah. Any fan that looks down on you for having questions about basketball are the same fans that would probably be okay with Golding winning 7 or 8 games a year. They would be okay keeping him. There is, and this applies to every fan base. Every fan base. There is a segment of Ole Miss fans that almost would rather be good, not great, and the coach never like be a threat to go anywhere. We'll keep the cutoff that 9 wins should be the baseline for this upcoming season. The roster is just too good, and that's a win shorter than usual just because of the 9-game schedule. Yep. Roster is too good to accept anything less than that, barring crazy injuries. Juracek versus Tanner versus John Cohen. Who's the worst AD? Cohen, because he started Mississippi State's first NIL thing was baseball only. Their first thing, baseball only. Last question for the night. You have 4 receivers to start from Ole Miss since 2020. Who are they? Mine are Elijah Moore, Trey Harris, Trey Wallace, and Dejon Stribling. Ooh, since 2020. Okay, y'all are going to think I'm crazy. I want to replace Trey Harris. If I can. So who would I replace him with? I don't know if I can. He just Dontario Drummond. That'd be. I mean, Elijah Moore's a no-brainer. Dejon Stribling's a no-brainer. I got it. See, I have a bad memory here. Let's see. Let me try to go through this. Gosh, Mingo. No. Maybe Drummond. Is that crazy? Just Trey Harris, God bless him, couldn't stay healthy. Jordan Watkins, maybe? Malik Heath? I think I would take this might be controversial. I think I would take Malik Heath over Trey Harris. Is that crazy? Is that like trying to be a takesman? Because I think I would. Again, I love Trey Harris, but scorching take? Oh, no, that's not good. I don't want to be that guy. I think Heath would have been a little bit more durable. Makes me appreciate Keith Carter even more when I hear stories about Auburn and Arkansas. No kidding, man. I feel like that's a bit crazy. Yeah, my bad. It's the health. That's it. It's only health. A healthy Trey Harris greater than a healthy Malik Heath. But if I need 12 games plus a playoff run out of one of them, you know what I mean? I think I'm kind of justified in that. Maybe I'm crazy. Thoughts on the Southern game on Tuesday? Would obviously be a big W on the road. Yes, they're very good. They pitch the hell out of it. And here's what they're going to do. They will pitch. They'll throw 9 guys on Tuesday. They do it every midweek. They did it against Alabama, beat them. Did it against Mississippi State, beat them. And so you'll see weekend bullpen guys on Tuesday night, but they'll only throw an inning. But they'll throw 4 or 5 freshmen that, are just quality pitchers, really good stuff. They're 10 or so deep out of the bullpen, like quality arms. They're good, man. It'll be a zoo. I think it's a lineup that Ole Miss can keep in check, pitching wise. They're not going to make many mistakes. But yeah, they're going to throw 9 guys at Ole Miss on Tuesday. But yeah, it'll be a zoo. They hate Ole Miss. And they're a really good team. But I do think that runs will be at a premium in this game. Will Taylor Ray play because he didn't this weekend? Maybe you could extend him a little bit on Tuesday. I don't see why not. I got to get out of here. Really appreciate you guys for tuning in. As always, we'll be live after the game. That's what we'll do. We'll be live after the game on Tuesday. And I'll see you then. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, guys, and see you after the game on Tuesday.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.